The lobby was far too quiet for what was happening, the kind of silence that makes every raised voice sound twice as loud. Sunlight streamed through the tall glass windows, bouncing off smooth marble floors, and in the center of that calm, polished space stood a storm named Emma. Her face was flushed, her voice sharp enough to cut through concrete, and she jabbed her finger at my chest as if she owned the air between us. She wore a pale pink business suit, fitted too tightly at the shoulders, her expression locked in a mix of anger and absolute certainty that she was right. "He doesn't belong here. Arrest him now," she shouted. A tall, muscular security guard stood beside her, black uniform, arms folded, eyes flicking between us as if trying to decide whose command he should obey. He looked like a man who'd walked into the last 5 minutes of a movie and was expected to choose a side without knowing the plot. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. I simply held the gray folder in my hand, the one clearly labeled ownership. "Emma," I said calmly, the way you speak to someone teetering on the edge of reason. "You really want to do this?" That was the moment the air grew heavy, the moment before everything turned inside out. But the story didn't start there. It began 2 weeks earlier, and before the shouting, before the accusations, before security got involved, before I learned just how far Emma would go to feel powerful. 2 weeks earlier, I walked into that same building carrying only a briefcase, a set of keys, and a quiet sense of duty. My uncle had passed away the month before, leaving me his entire property portfolio. One of those properties was this building, a modern condominium complex with a shared office lobby on the ground floor. Clean design, prime location, reliable tenants, a place he had built and nurtured for years. I'm not the dramatic type. I avoid conflict whenever I can. I'm a 38-year-old operations consultant. I solve problems and keep things steady. But that morning I stepped right into someone else's drama. Emma was waiting for me in the lobby, as if my arrival was an inconvenience she'd been preparing to punish. "So, you're the nephew," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "We'll need to review your authorization to be on the premises." I had already introduced myself twice. I offered my hand and she ignored it. "I'm the new property owner," I said, as plainly as stating the weather. "I'll be working with management to review pending maintenance and HOA matters." Emma's lips pressed into a thin, decisive line. "No one makes decisions here without HOA approval, and I'm the HOA president. You can send any documents to me." I opened my briefcase and handed her the deed transfer notice and the official letter of property succession. It was straightforward. No gray areas, no legal confusion. The building was mine, period. She didn't read a single word. She just glanced at the papers, then back at me, and smiled. The kind of smile someone wears right before they set fire to everything out of spite. "I'll review these and get back to you," she said, folding the documents with exaggerated care, as if they were fragile or fake. "Keep a copy," I replied, placing a duplicate on the front counter before she could claim I hadn't given her one. Her smile twitched. That was where it all began. Over the next week, it became clear that Emma believed this building was hers. She'd been running the HOA for years and built a reputation as the self-appointed ruler of everything. Hallway decor, visitor parking, package deliveries, even deciding which residents were acceptable. People were afraid of her. She didn't yell often, but when she did, everyone heard. And when she didn't, that wide, unblinking smile did all the talking. At first, I stayed polite. I sent the management team all ownership paperwork. I scheduled an introductory meeting. I asked the HOA board for updates on any open issues. Everything was documented, professional by the book. Emma was the opposite. Emails to the HOA went unanswered. Messages to her came back with short, dismissive replies. "Not necessary. We'll handle that internally." She blocked the building manager from meeting with me, claiming there were more important matters. She held closed-door board meetings and made sure I wasn't invited. And soon she stopped speaking to me directly. Instead, she started talking about me, to residents, to staff, to anyone willing to listen. When I walked through the lobby that afternoon, I could feel the eyes on me, quiet whispers, cautious glances. A young woman passing by avoided eye contact and clutched her mail to her chest. A couple near the elevator stopped talking the second I approached. I knew the signs of a rumor campaign before I even heard the words. One of the security staff finally pulled me aside. "Mr. William, he murmured, lowering his voice. Emma's been telling people you're trying to take over the building illegally. She's saying you might be unstable. I exhaled slowly. This wasn't just control anymore, it was delusion, and it was dangerous. Later that week, I approached Emma again, trying to keep things calm and rational. "Emma, we need to have a real conversation," I said. She didn't greet me. She didn't even blink. "You are not to enter any shared spaces without prior authorization," she declared coldly. "Until the HOA verifies your identity, you will be treated as a trespasser." "Verify my identity?" I repeated, holding out the documents once again. "This has already been verified. Management has the paperwork. The county registrar has the paperwork." Emma waved her hand like I was reading off a grocery list. "Anyone can forge paperwork." And just like that, logic left the room. The security guard nearby watched her carefully, unsure whether to intervene or stay back. "I'm not here to fight with you," I said. "I'm here to manage the building that now belongs to me. Let's sit down and discuss this professionally." "No," she cut me off sharply. "You will respect my authority, or you will not set foot in this lobby again." It would have been almost funny if it hadn't been so real. I didn't argue. I simply walked to the elevator and stepped inside, because I refused to validate her imaginary authority. That was the day she escalated. That evening, every resident received a formal building-wide notice. "Unauthorized person attempting to access lobby. Do not engage. Security will respond." My name wasn't written on it, but everyone knew who she meant. By the time the final confrontation came, tension was already thick. Everyone had seen the notices, the emails, the whispers. The lobby had become a stage and the audience was waiting. And so we returned to that moment. Emma standing in the middle of the polished marble floor, voice raised, finger jabbing at me like a weapon. "He does not belong here. Arrest him. I am the HOA president and I am giving a direct order." The security guard hesitated, glancing at me for guidance. I simply lifted the gray folder labeled ownership a little higher so everyone could see. I didn't raise my voice. "Emma," I said calmly, "this is the moment you'll wish you had listened." The room held its breath. That was where the real story began. The guard didn't move at first. His eyes shifted from Emma's trembling hand to the folder in mine, then back to her face. He looked like a man trying to navigate a minefield. Emma's voice rose again, sharper now, filled with panic instead of power. She wasn't used to being challenged. "Do your job," she snapped. "This man is trespassing." The guard cleared his throat. "Ma'am, I need to see proof of—" "I already told you," she interrupted. "I filed the report. The HOA controls lobby access and resident safety. We've had complaints," she added, turning toward the small crowd of residents, "about him harassing people. Don't you remember?" Her accusations spread like poison, subtle but effective. I saw the doubt in some of their faces, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Emma had spent days feeding those suspicions, and now she was reaping their fear. I kept my posture calm, even as my pulse pounded hard in my throat. Reacting emotionally would only make her story stronger. That's what she wanted, for me to explode so she could claim victory. I opened the gray folder and held up the deed. "This document is notarized. The ownership transfer is recorded with the county clerk's office. There's nothing unclear about it. This building belongs to me." Emma laughed, loud, forced, defensive. "Forged, printed, manipulated. Anyone can fake documents. Do you really think we'll just take your word for it?" But her eyes betrayed her. Behind the anger I saw it, fear. Not fear of me, but fear of losing control. The security guard took a small step forward. "Mr. William, would you mind stepping outside while we sort this out?" I shook my head. If I step outside, she'll claim I admitted I don't belong here. "I'm not leaving." Emma's tone snapped like a whip. "Remove him now." Just then, the far lobby door swung open and the building manager, Thomas, rushed in. His face was flushed and he looked like he'd run all the way there. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice tight with concern as he took in the scene. Emma trembling with fury, the guard frozen in indecision, and me standing calmly, holding the truth in my hands. Emma seized the moment. "This man is impersonating the property owner and trying to take control of the building," she declared. "I've already filed a trespass report. He is not allowed here." Thomas looked at her first, then at me, and I saw the instant recognition cross his face. He knew the truth. I had emailed him every document, every confirmation, every notarized transfer. He had scheduled our meeting himself. "Emma," he said carefully, "the county registry verified the ownership change. We received confirmation 5 days ago." The silence that followed was heavy. Emma didn't blink. "No, you don't have the authority to override HOA jurisdiction. We have our own internal procedures and we haven't approved him, so he's not approved." She had crossed from controlling to delusional, and the room could finally see it. But she wasn't finished. She stepped closer to Thomas, her voice lower but still burning with intensity. "You know how hard I've worked to keep this place in order," she insisted. "You know what happens when the wrong kind of people start taking control. The residents trust me. They rely on me. I keep this building running. You need to support me. If he stays, everything we've built will fall apart." She wasn't just protecting authority. She was protecting identity. The HOA presidency wasn't just a title to her. It was who she was. Thomas didn't answer right away. He waited for the room to settle, then turned to the security guard. "No one is being removed," he said firmly. "Not until we verify everything properly." Emma inhaled sharply, a brittle, crystalline sound of disbelief. "So you're siding with him?" "I'm following procedure," Thomas replied. Emma's face twisted, the color draining from it. When she spoke again, her voice had lost all composure. "He's going to destroy this place. He's going to ruin it. And when he does, every one of you will regret not listening to me." Her words echoed through the lobby. Some residents stepped back. Others looked away. A few exchanged silent glances that said what no one dared speak. "This has gone too far." I saw my opening, calm against her chaos. "Emma," I said quietly, "I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to manage this building responsibly. You and I could have worked together." And that was the truth. I had never planned to remove her from the board, but she'd made cooperation impossible. She stepped closer, stopping just inches from me. Her voice trembled, but her tone stayed defiant. "This is my building. I've spent years keeping everything in order. You think you can just walk in here and take it all? I won't let you. I will protect this community from you." The guard shifted uneasily. Thomas let out a slow breath. Even the air felt tight. I knew then that reason had reached its limit. This wasn't about policies or paperwork anymore, and it was about power. And Emma would rather burn the building down than give it up. The escalation didn't start with shouting. It started quietly. Emma began contacting residents one by one, spinning her story in private. She printed flyers claiming I was staging a hostile takeover. She held unscheduled HOA emergency meetings, twisting her words just enough to stay out of legal trouble. She was careful, always one step short of outright defamation. She knew how to manipulate perception while keeping her hands technically clean. Residents grew uneasy. Some avoided me. Others apologized for not knowing what was true. A few, the ones who had long disliked her control, quietly offered support, but they spoke in whispers. No one wanted to become her next target. I started documenting everything, every email, every notice, every conversation. Not out of revenge, but because I knew that eventually, clarity would be my only defense. The breaking point didn't come in a dramatic confrontation at first. It came in paperwork. I submitted a formal request to review the HOA's financial records, something I had every legal right to do as the property owner. Emma's response was one sentence: "Request denied." Out of compliance. That was when I realized there was something bigger behind her behavior. She wasn't just controlling, she was hiding something. The next day I requested an official HOA board meeting with all members present. Emma refused and replaced it with her own unauthorized emergency assembly. From that point on, the tension inside the building was like static in the air. Every conversation carried it. Every interaction felt watched. Residents followed our exchanges as if they were live theater. And then one morning it all reached its final act. I stepped into the lobby as usual. Emma was already there, waiting. The second the door opened, her voice cut through the air, already sharp, already escalating. "Security. Stop him, he's trespassing again." This was the moment she had been building toward. The moment she thought she could turn her narrative into reality through sheer volume. The guard stepped forward, visibly torn. Emma pointed directly at me.
"Call the police."
The lobby went silent. The guard didn't move. I said, "Call them." she screamed, and he did. In that instant, it stopped being a conflict. It became a legal event, a public one, an irreversible one. As we waited, Emma stood tall, breathing fast, eyes blazing with victory. She truly believed this was the moment she'd won everything. I simply stood there, folder in hand, and for the first time I smiled, not out of amusement, but because I finally understood how the end of this story was going to unfold. Not by force, but through truth. When the glass doors slid open and the officers stepped inside, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. Their calm, deliberate steps carried the weight of experience. People who had seen every kind of conflict imaginable. Their dark uniforms stood out sharply against the polished white walls and soft lighting. Even the neatly placed plants meant to make the lobby welcoming now felt like props on a stage set for judgment. Emma straightened her pink blazer, smoothed her hair, and stepped forward with a confident air. "Officers," she began, her tone steady, but brimming with anticipation. "Thank you for coming. This man is trespassing. We need him removed immediately. I've filed prior notices and he's refused to leave the property. He's been harassing residents." The officers glanced from me to the folder in my hand, then to the building manager standing tensely nearby. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't rush. I simply handed the folder forward. "My name is William. I'm the legal property owner of this building. All ownership documents are verified and filed with the county clerk's office. Building management has confirmed everything. I've been trying to coordinate with the HOA for a week, but the president here has blocked every attempt and now escalated the situation unnecessarily. I have documentation of that as well." The lead officer accepted the folder and began reviewing it carefully. His movements were steady and precise. Emma fidgeted beside him, unable to stay still. "Those papers are fake," she blurted out. "Anyone can print something like that." "He's lying." "He has no right to be here." The officer didn't respond immediately. He continued reading, expression unchanged, before turning to the building manager. "Do you confirm this transfer?" Thomas nodded firmly. "Yes, sir. The ownership was verified through the county registry. I received confirmation via certified email and have copies in my office." The officer turned back to Emma. "Ma'am, did you verify this information before calling the police?" Emma blinked. "I didn't need to. I'm the HOA president. I oversee building operations. He shouldn't be allowed to act without our approval." The officer's tone remained professional but gained a firmer edge. "The HOA does not outrank legal ownership. If these documents are accurate, he has full rights to access the building and its common areas." Emma shook her head, her composure slipping. "No, you don't understand. If you let him stay, everything falls apart. I've spent years keeping this place under control. Without structure, there's chaos. I can't let that happen again." Her voice cracked, too loud, too desperate. The residents standing in the hallways had gone still, their faces tight with discomfort. Whatever sympathy they once felt for her had vanished into quiet embarrassment. The officer closed the folder and met Emma's eyes. "Ma'am, filing a false report is a criminal offense. If you knowingly misrepresented the situation, there could be legal consequences. Attempting to block a lawful property owner from his own building may also count as harassment or misuse of HOA authority." Emma opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her certainty had met something immovable. Not me, but the law itself. I spoke gently, not to gloat, but because clarity was needed. "This didn't have to happen, Emma. I tried to work with you. I offered meetings and cooperation. You refused every time." She turned toward me. For the first time, her arrogance fell away, leaving only fear masked as anger. "This is my building," she whispered, her voice breaking. I held it together. No one respected it until I did. No one cared until I cared. You don't know what happens when people stop following rules. Everything falls apart. I can't let that happen again. Her words carried something deeper, pain from an old wound she'd never healed. But it was too late. Whatever had shaped her had become the weapon she used to shape others, and she did it through control. Thomas stepped closer. "Emma, the HOA will hold an emergency board vote this afternoon. Your position as president is under review." The last thread of her authority snapped. "You can't do that," she whispered. "You can't. I built this place. I kept it safe. You all know what I've done for you." Silence answered her. The officers didn't handcuff her. They didn't need to. They didn't need to. The humiliation was punishment enough. The legal consequences would follow soon after. Emma didn't look at me again. She walked out of the lobby, stiff-backed and trembling, disappearing down the hallway where the elevator waited like a cold steel period at the end of her reign. The atmosphere changed instantly. The air seemed lighter. People finally exhaled. Conversations resumed, soft at first, then warmer. A few residents approached me, their voices low, their apologies sincere. They explained they had stayed silent out of fear. Emma had ruled through manipulation, turning neighbors into chess pieces while she played queen. I didn't hold it against them. Fear makes people small, even when they wish to be brave. By evening, the HOA board gathered. The meeting wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no drawn-out debate. Emma didn't show up. The vote to remove her was unanimous. Her title was stripped, her access revoked, her authority ended. Security was instructed to escort her out if she tried to return. The next morning, her trademark pink suit was nowhere to be seen. Replacing her wasn't my priority. Control wasn't leadership. A community didn't need fear to stay organized. Order didn't require dominance. For the first time in years, people began to speak freely. Ideas, questions, and laughter filled the lobby. The building was breathing again. Weeks passed. Slowly, the place began to feel like a home. One afternoon, I walked through that same lobby, the marble floors gleaming in the afternoon light, the plants casting soft shadows across the white walls. But this time the silence wasn't tense. It was peaceful. The security guard nodded at me, more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. "You handled that well," he said. Most people would have yelled back. I smiled faintly. Sometimes the loudest person in the room is the weakest. You just have to wait long enough for them to show it. He chuckled. And that was it. No tension, no performance. Just normal life. A few days later, I received a notice confirming that Emma had been fined for filing a false police report. Soon after came another, an audit of the HOA funds she'd controlled. The numbers didn't match. She had been managing more than authority. She had been managing power tightly and quietly. Her downfall didn't end with her silence. The consequences would echo long after her voice stopped carrying through those marble halls.